Peace and blessings, y'all. This is your boy Gerald. It is the 4th of December, 2016. How is everybody doing? You're on the backside of your week, y'all. And I hope that your weekend, you're well. I hope that this weekend you were able to nurture and take care of you. Because there's only one you, y'all. And it's priceless. So I decided this morning, because I've been pretty active on my channel. But this morning, I was reflecting on the events that have transpired not only nationally, but environmentally. Does it surprise you that, I can go back 5 years at least. There's always a cataclysmic event in a town near you, in a city near you, in a state near you, to be projected on to your TV screen just to bring the emotional fiber down a notch. I'm still hoping one day that they'll say today was a good day. I'm just saying. But what crossed my mind this morning was, I know for us here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, as well as for those that live on the East Coast, it's been about a month now since we felt the effects of Hurricane Matthew. And it just made me reflect, because there are people that the day before they would have never foresaw where they are now. No different than the people that live on the Jersey Shore, the boardwalk, a couple years back. They learned the same thing. No different than the people down south and on the coastline, Florida, the Gulf, the Panhandle. Starting to see a commonality that everybody is seeing the same thing. And the one thing that screams to be taken for granted is how fragile your life is. I woke up this morning, y'all, and I was thinking about that. I was like, man, I mean, I don't have to sit up here and throw it in your face, but think about it. When the scripture, those that will be last will be made first, and those who were first will be made last. There's a process. There's an event that had to occur that will cause you to validate and focus on the things that are important to you. And it made me think about it this morning. I'm like, man, you know what? Shoot. I'm just going to do a snapshot for the last 2 years. I'll just say 2 years. We'll just say two. On the West Coast, fires. Fires. It never fails. There's always fires. The mountains and the valleys always tend to go up. And I understand there's controlled burning is part of it. I know another part of it has to do with smokers not being responsible and flicking the cigarette butts out the window. Also, factor can be dry, dense areas from the sunlight. Lightning is another. But 2016 to me has been a pinnacle year because you have fires on the west, you had tornadoes in the Midwest, you had flooding in the South, you had major fires to the Great North, referring to Canada. I want to say that was Alberta, or maybe it's Quebec. I'm not sure. A lot of things burned unnecessarily. And then the East Coast, you have fires in North Carolina, parts of Tennessee, and they had just noted that supposedly there was a suspect for the fires in North Carolina, if I'm correct, and confessed to two. Well, they're gonna throw the book at all of them but the reason behind it, why? Why did you want to feel that you wanted to destroy? Now, granted, for those who have been affected to that, know that a lot of those areas, because God is always there. What was lost shall be found, and what was broken will be made new. And a lot of times, those areas, through a natural process, the earth will heal itself, and you will see regeneration, not regentrification. We don't want regentrification. We don't want that, because that does the opposite, to come in and knock down your history just to put in a shopping mall. They kill off the trees, but then they're wondering why people walking around with breathing conditions. So it made me think this morning. This morning when I got up, got up a couple hours ago, and I started thinking. I was like, you know what? We as a society have become very gluttonous. We want more instead of appreciating what we have. The little things. You used to hear your elders say, it's the little things that matter most. So then it made me think, why is it that we don't see more people getting back to the basics, like growing your own stuff, getting into gardening, have your hobbies, talents. Why aren't we focusing on? Why are we not promoting that? Why are we not at a minimum setting the blueprint, the example for those who are going to come behind us? Bridging the gap with not only your family history, but that will become their knowledge. Why is that, millennials? Why is it not promoted, the things that you need to know? It seems like now more than ever, they want you to embrace the party like it's 1999 mind state. Everything's a party. Everything is just a dream. Everything can be facilitated by consumption. But meanwhile, we've got chemtrails being sprayed, food not properly prepared. That's why there's always, every year, there's always somebody saying, hey man, you burnt up my Frito. I gotta sue you. Hey man, I got sick because of this. I gotta sue you. But nobody takes in consideration of this. That would have never occurred if you were not there. Who am I talking to? The end goal of your life should not be the one who has the most stuff wins. Because depending on where your mind state is or the influence of your mindset, if not cultivated, you will end up becoming what? A hoarder. Haven't you noticed those people that they are having the shows on that are hoard? They're broken up here. There's a pain, there's a challenge. And instead of tackling, maybe you don't have the tools to conquer that, but being able to acknowledge that something needs to be worked on. But you can't work on something that you want to acknowledge exists. It's no different. It's no different from a consumption level, because you have those who are compulsive eaters. It's the same thing, except the hoarders, they burn through their money and they get a euphoric high out of being in the masses and being able to have the possession of whatever. I might need it for a rainy day. You used to always hear people say that. Save for a rainy day. Or how many times have you done this? You go into the store with a sole purpose to buy one thing, but you leave out with other things, only to realize later on, why did I buy that? Because it was on sale? No, you were on sale. That's why when you go into any retail establishment, you'll see this. It is color coded. It is strategically placed to catch the eye, which is the same thing that your parents did to you when you were a baby. the toys that you played with stimulated the psyche. Think about it. Why do you think that they created little mobiles that go over the crib? You notice they're not the same colors. They're not the same patterns. It's number one, to stimulate your brain, but also to keep you distracted. And this has always been the case. Now, this is not a rant. It's just, what do you do, or what must happen where you are now before you'll decide to say, you know what, I'm pretty good where I'm at. Or you do the opposite and say, you know what, this doesn't serve me. Why do I have 3 of the same dress pattern when you don't even wear one? I know that's for somebody. Now, it has always been said this: one man's treasure is another man's trash. And right now, there's been a ever growing demand for people to do, we used to call it junking, what other people know it as dumpster diving. And you got thousands and thousands of videos here on YouTube and pretty much online. And you would be amazed what you see. First, if you go back, for those who worked in the fast food market, you know this. Think about those times that you worked. And then they said, well, you know what, it's time to go home. And there was still food left over. What happened? You had to bag that stuff up and throw it away. But yet, you felt a certain kind of way because you knew, like, well, you know, this is good food. Why can't we give this to the homeless? And they tell you, well, you know, it's health reasons. But really, when you think about it, it's about profit. You can't make no money off the homeless because they ain't got nothing. And that's why they don't do it. Even though the PR spin on it has always been, well, we can't give nobody food, you know, that we prepare because if they get sick, we could get sued. Well, I think the last thing someone's going to worry about suing is when they're hungry. But then if that was the case, then it's kind of contradictory when you have food banks. Same thing, right? It's the same thing when you have donation locations too. You know, there used to be a time where if you had clothes and you had siblings or family members, you're like, well, Charlie can't fit this, but Stephanie can. And you would pass that clothes. We know it as hand-me-downs. It's clothes. But we've gotten to a place that we've gotten so gluttonous that if it's got a scuff on it, it's got a label on it. Oh, nobody's nobody's checking for that, so I ain't gonna do that no more. I think some of y'all who are in your late 30s remember the season of Carl Carnine. Remember Carl Carnine? Remember him? I mean, he's still out there doing his thing, but now he's on a more of a high level thing now. So you ain't gonna find a lot of his stuff in the stores. Not the good stuff. Um, but when he came out on the market, he made top quality clothing. The problem was Carl Kanai made them too well. They didn't wear out quick enough. He actually gave a damn about his product because it was his name. And just as quick as it came in, just as quick as it went out, because the people that were backing him was like, we can't make money off of you, Carl. They're not buying them quick enough. Doesn't matter how you try to flip your fashion brand. But really, when you think about it, Carl was always about what he stood for in this community. Because you think about it, you are their example. You are their walking advertisement. How many times have you been out and about and you happen to see someone and they had something on and it said, and it caught you, but man, that's nice. And what'd you do? Some of y'all went right to the store that same day looking for it. Now we're in the technological age where you can look it up on your smartphone and go on Amazon and say, well, there it is. Boom, boom. And you'll have it at your door in 2-3 days. At the end of the day, y'all, you dictate what's outside your door by making the decision if you're going to open it. Who am I talking to? And it just made me think a little deeper this morning. I was like, man, 2016 has been a eye-opening year. You've had so much natural loss. I mean, go back last year. There were tornadoes. There was a lot of tornadoes last year. There was flooding last year, but it was never on the magnitude of 2016. There was a lot of loss this year, y'all. A lot. But there was just as many distractions too. It's like society had a Lay's potato chip mindset. Don't worry, tear it up, we'll make more. And you can be right out there buying it. But I see this. Some of the community have taken note of that and are living more practical. And some are actually doing the opposite. They are thinning out their environment. They are actually looking at the things they need compared to the things that was just wants. I'm like, man, yeah, what? Why not buy that? And that's why you look around, which has always been here, it's always been around. You got flea markets popping up everywhere. Tell me you haven't seen that. Swap meets popping up everywhere. I think a lot of people are starting to take note, like, well, you know what? What's the point of having that storage unit if the things in that storage unit I ain't messed with in over 7 months? And then that's when you got to turn around and go deeper and say, well, you gotta, because a lot of times with our financial spending, a lot of it is emotional triggers. I know you can look at something in your residence, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're like, you know what? I was feeling a certain kind of way when I bought that, but it don't serve me. Why do I have it? I'm gonna tell you why. Because a lot of it was influenced by your environment, or or indirect manipulation by the people that was in it. Yeah, go ahead and get that. Mm-hmm. That look good on you. Nah, you want to go ahead and invest on that because if you don't, they're gonna be gone. Why is it the things that should matter, that should be invested, being promoted? Your greatest investment is your life, y'all. So, with that being said, if we were to, if something, God forbid, there was something that would have, say, for example, you went off to work today, right? And you came home, you you returned, you came home to realize that your home wasn't there. How would you prepare to live your life? I say this, I say this because I saw this occur uh, when we had Hurricane Matthew come through our area. Some areas had standing water 3 to 4 feet, and we were very lucky because a lot of it would recede only in a couple of days, you know. But of course, it left the aftermath for those to pick up after what was left. FEMA came through here, and the governor came through, the mayor came through. It was photo op, and they pledged their support. I'll give them that. They were there. But what I found amazing, there were some areas that within that same week, they told these people, you got 24 hours to leave. I'm talking apartment apartment communities. You got 24 hours. Some had 3 days, but one particular made the news here, and they had 24 hours. There were they put them stickers on their doors. You had to go. So what about those people that didn't financially have that rainy day fund, figuratively? What about those people that were barely holding on? These people, yeah, they turned around the city and was like, well, they gave them vouchers to stay in hotels. I think they gave him 30 days or something like that. But your life, some people literally had to walk away from what they knew because they didn't have the means to take it with them. So that made me think this morning, in a town near you, in a city near you, in a state near you, if the environment, because they've been talking about global warming for the last 15 years, and they've made movies like The Day After Tomorrow and many other movies out there. Do you have a plan in place? I remember one time my dad asked me, and I was in the midst of, I echo sometimes. I talk about the sole reason why I created my channel, and because I was the morning after, so to speak, of my breakup, and how I grew. I lent on to God to help me understand, but also to claim who I really was. And I remember one time sitting in my parents' home at the kitchen, and I'm I think I was drinking coffee then, and my dad asked me. He said, you can't buy your happiness." I was like, "I know." He said, "He said you're not loyal to your possessions, are you?" And I was like, "Huh?" He said, "Yeah," because my dad, he instilled in me to work hard. You know, don't expect someone to bail you out, bail yourself out. And I know he tried as best he could to spare my emotions because I was broken, y'all. I was hurt, dealing with betrayal, you know. And he more or less got me to think. He said, materialism, possessions come and go, just like people do. But what matters most is what you claim. And before he could pretty much finish what he was trying to convey to me, I retorted back very respectfully. Said, "No, if I got it once, I'll get it again. You just gave me an opportunity to go shopping because I've been that. That's how I've always been. Oh, no issue. Oh, because we live in a society, y'all, where there are a lot of people that, I always use the metaphor of the bird cage, especially when I'm trying to talk to some people that are in that kept relationship, which is not a relationship because there's no loyalty there. That's why you're feeling what you're feeling, because that's nothing but denial of the truth of what you really need compared to what is being shown. And I told him, I was like, no. But we allow what we possess to influence who we are, what we feel like, what we feel like, what we feel inside, and the perceptions that are used to validate it. So, in other words, if you were if you were Mr. Got It Going On today, and then they said, "Mr. Got It Going On, uh, you ain't got it." Does it change the person who you are? For some, they would say yes because of the outer package. But for others, and this is where your wisdom comes into play, you understand that the outer does not make the inner. The outer may have a influence because it should represent who you are inside. Who am I talking to? That's why, God said it best, to thyself be true. But if you don't know who you are, how are you going to understand what is being placed before you, but the direction you are going? You won't. And unfortunately, a lot of people get caught up in that. They get caught up in the uh, social positioning of where your life is. Like, well, I didn't have nothing until I got with Charlie, and Charlie's a doctor, so I'm good. But really, when you're thinking about it, you're benefiting off of Charlie. But if Charlie was to walk out your life or be taken from you, say because he passed, you would only have the remnants of Charlie's placement there. The reason being was because you didn't cultivate that. That's kind of like someone trying to lay claim to your car. It's you that went out and said, I want that. It's you that every month pays your insurance and pays your note. It's you. This is a byproduct or an extension that represents your social standings. But on the contrary, how many times have you seen the opposite? And it isn't. Well, wait a minute. I thought this person fell from heaven, but come to find out they straight from hell. Who am I talking to? That's why you can't have conversations with them. You have dialogues. Conversation is sender receiver. Dialogue is just what you get. So, which brings me back. It just seems like the things that we should focus on individually, as a community, as a society, they take a back seat. Commercialism is really the pulse of what you've come to know outside your door. But there's still somebody that is putting it in motion. There's still someone dictating how it is presented. So it makes me wonder, how have we gotten to a point now that people live in houses but don't have homes? Because you know what a house is compared to a home, right? House has stuff, but a home has love. Who am I talking to? Maybe that's the reason why when you hear a family that prays together stays together. because the foundation, the mortar that holds the bricks, the nails that hold up the beams are fortified by love. That's why you always hear me say, y'all, you can't kill love, but you have to be responsible with it. And I know I've had people ask me, well, Jerry, why you keep saying you can't kill love? Because if you love your soul, you will deem it to those who are worthy. Then you also understand this is what makes your life, life, living in favor every day. You don't let the distractions you don't entertain them. You acknowledge, but you keep it moving. Why? Because God has something better. He's trying to show you something. Even when the storms come. And there'll be many. Oh, yes, they will. Oh, yes, they will. Because they're hoping that you don't. They hope that you keep bopping to the beat. Meanwhile, the things that matter will fade away. You do understand the work is never done, no matter how high or what ladder you decide to climb in your status. Jacob found that out. And what happened to Jacob? The same people that you meet going up is the same people you meet going down. So that's why all things come full circle. When you peel back the allegory, you hear the same thing. The commonality is you. Do you know you? Because if you knew you, you wouldn't be saying this. Sometimes I don't even know them. Sometimes she acts like a stranger. Sometimes I feel like I'm all alone. To thyself be true. Come on, Queen. Why you need a magazine to tell you what you should already know? You can't tap into your true essence or beauty until you decide to love you. Come on, Kings. You can't tap into your greatness until you understand the responsibility of it. Why you think society keeps telling you, King, sow your oats, baby. Spray that seed. You know why? On a simplistic level, that's part of your spirit. That's why you feel like, that's part of your spiritual essence. So if you don't govern or protect who you give that to, don't you understand that also attacks your aura? For some of you, it'll go way over your head. I understand. I was like that too. Then one day, when I decided to love myself more, I had that conversation with him. And I asked for forgiveness. And I was like, Lord, I know you got something better. I know that you have a specific reason why I exist. Show me. And as I continued to pray, started to notice through time that is, years, I kept going back to thoughts past. I looked at my evolution into manhood. Now, King, let me tell you something. You cannot call yourself a man if you do not take a knee for God. Who am I talking to? If you're feeling a certain kind of way, even having the conversation about God, it's because there's an insecurity about you. Maybe that's the reason why you feel peculiar when you say, I love you. But the person intended to hear it most is you. And 50% of that is based off of your knowledge. And the other 50% is those who showed you, your teachers, your elders, your parents. You know, there are people that actually are walking around on this planet and they're frustrated because they have behaviors about them and they don't understand how they see or perceive certain things. They don't understand how um, it manifests from them, and they are drawn to it, and they don't understand. Well, why do I talk this way, or why do I act this way, or why am I drawn to this? Because it's part of your spiritual essence of your DNA code. Half comes from your mother. The other half comes from your father. That's why it's very imperative, y'all, that you know your history. And I know somebody saying, well, how can you say that, Gerald? I don't have a relationship with my parents. Or I don't have a relationship with my parents because I don't know them. Or I don't have a relationship with the people that were influential in my life because they don't talk. They're only going off of what was instilled in them. And we also look at it like this. If your parents are in their mid late 60s, they had to deal with segregation. Either because they were part of that or they were part of the environment of that. And I've come to understand, because God is the ultimate comedian too. Um, you'll come to understand, you'll see this. Those who embrace hate, hate is nothing but fear and misdirected love. That's all it is. But the one thing I notice about people that choose to stand on that banner of hate, the same things that they hate becomes their lessons. For example, you may have had, I'm just going to use this as an example. You have you have a you have a father, right? And his ideology, his belief system was a certain way because he's going off of how he was taught. And depending on the perception, the same thing he hates will be attracted to his life. So that's why you see this. There's a whole lot of biracial kids on this planet, ain't it? And then when you zoom out of the picture, you see this. Well, you know, you got to bear with me. You'll see this. The father or the mother, their ideology, because the last thing they want to do is change it because that's all they know. And then the blessing comes from what they hated, which will be a child. So let's just say, we'll just say the father was black, right? And he had a bias, a bigotry, right? And he had a door, right? Not only the bias and the bigotry that he's tried to instill in his home, the daughter will rebel, but she will be attracted to what the bigotry was about. And a child comes from that. Same thing. Some different scenario, kind of different. Would it say this? Take a woman, right? Very promiscuous. All she knew was getting it in, right? She has a daughter, right? And she takes her belief system and ideology and tries to instill it in the child. The child will turn around and question but rebel, right? But if that daughter doesn't have a value system in themselves, what will end up happening is not only will the bigotry and the ideology that was tried to be instilled in the daughter manifest, but she will end up not only being attracted to that, but it'll manifest twice. So say for that it'll be that person's gender and that person's nationality. You see this with guys. Guy might have been a player. Oh yeah, he was a womanizer all day. And 9 times out of 10, if he was a womanizer, because he saw it from his mom. Most guys won't tell you the truth on that, but that's usually where it comes from. Because he saw the behavior of the mom. Didn't understand it. But he ended up becoming the example because it played out in his life. And ain't nothing worse than a parent to see their child in pain and they can't do nothing about it. Because what happens is they become walking truth, a walking example of what not to do. Also, here's another thing too. God ain't nowhere in the mix. That's why the devil thinks he's winning, because there's so much separatism going on right now. There's so much disenfranchising, disfranchisement. There's so much separation going on, and you're seeing groups of people, you know. But guess what? There's still somebody sitting high on the hill saying, well, you know what? Together, if you were together, I would have a problem. But if I can break y'all up one by one by one, I'm going to take advantage of it. And that's why you see this now going on in our political system too. Because you can't have a community without unity. And until you decide to unify yourself, which the word unity has I, that means you, that means requires one. So you want to do the work for yourself, see what you need compared to what you want. Well, you'll be you'll be walking around that mountain. Why you think the children of Israel walked 40 years? Because they wouldn't change the way they thought. And that was nothing but pride, ego, fear. You know, finally everything's reality. That's all that was. Instead of going within, seeing the blessing of your life. You're alive, y'all. You are alive. That means you can change anything you want. Those who are last will be made first. Those who are first will be made last. So let's bring it home. If you don't see the value of who you are, it doesn't matter what you obtain. Because the reality is this. You can't take it with you. You don't want to end up being that person that has a house. And what is a house? It ain't nothing but a minimized museum. How many of y'all remember this growing up? It might have been the den or the living room, and all the good furniture was there. What'd your parents say? Don't go in there. So what'd you do? You treated it like a museum. You just looked, admired, and kept it moving. Just make sure your heart isn't a museum of disappointment. That's all I'm saying. But let's go back to this whole thing. If you had to walk away from your reality today, would you be prepared? Something to think about. Because look, you work too damn hard. But even in consumerism, they put it in your face. Every time you go to the auto dealership, nice and shiny. But that is nothing but a timestamp on a choice. But they don't tell you the moment that you roll that wheel on to the street, it depreciates. Your self-worth should not. Maybe that's the reason why you see so many people that value. There's nothing wrong with wealth. There's nothing. Don't get me wrong. Don't take this as, oh, I'm bashing people that got money. No, not at all. Enjoy the fruits of your labor as long as it doesn't compromise your self-respect, your integrity. That's what your harvest should be. You put in the time, You invested in yourself, and the outcome was the result. But if it's causing you to be depressed, to hang your head low, to be a shell of who you are, all I'm saying is it's time for you to purge, because it ain't benefiting you. It's benefiting them. And you've given validation to everybody that saw you a certain way. I know I'm talking to somebody, because I know there's somebody going through that now. You're frustrated. You're like, I thought all I needed to do was go to the gym and get my physicality right. Yeah. It caught the attention of the common Joe. It may have opened a door for you to tap into your sexuality too, because you're like, man, everybody checking for me. Wow. Only for you to realize that they were wolves sitting on the hilltop, surveying, waiting. You got some people, that's all they do. They don't have the courage to give you the common respect and ask. Worst thing you can get out of that is a no. What is no? No don't mean forever. No means under review. If you respect me, you'll respect my position. But I understand we are in a ultra sexual revolution. You got these 50 Shades of Grey, and you've got these constant pumping of media to get you to think and embrace things that don't serve you. And if you stop and ground your feet and listen, you'll understand they're disrespecting you metaphorically. Even when the rain comes, y'all, the sun comes out. Just don't be afraid of what washes up to be revealed. That might be your blessing and your opportunity to be made new. You're worth it. God's praying for you. You know I am. I see your worth. And for that, it helps me discern mine. I hope you're drinking your water, y'all. Taking your vitamins, getting your rest. You're going to need that. Remember, your body is a temple. You are the living testimony or testament. You have a covenant with yourself by having a covenant with God. Because when you do, watch what he shows you. You're worth it. That's why there's only one. Have a blessed weekend, y'all. Have a safe week. Bye.